Hey, Podcast America. Welcome to episode 880 of the Enlightened Neanderthals podcast, brought to you by my company, Training Northwest, which you can find at trainingnorthwestllc.com. Right now, we have listed for December an introductory rifle course that is tailored for hunters. The idea being that after I took my older son to the hunter safety course, I realized that the state, go figure, is not fulfilling
basic needs.
Yeah, exactly.
Basic duties.
Fuck, man. For a course that they force people to take, there's not a whole lot of information there, so we're filling the gap. And the idea is come out to the range, you're going to learn your basic safety. We're going to teach you how to zero your rifle at 100 yards. You're going to zero your rifle at 100 yards. And then we'll end it with a practical exercise, having you move through the woods a little bit with your rifle to ensure you can do it safely. Spot, identify, range your target, establish a shooting position, and fire a single shot into a kill zone target, or I should say a target the size of a deer's vital organs. So that's on the website, posted for December 14th. And there is a waiting list for the rifleman camp. The first session is already full. If I get 10 people on the waiting list, I think there's 7 or 8 right now, I'll schedule a second weekend. So if that's something that interests you, go click on it and get your name on the waiting list. What are we talking about today, guys?
Drugs.
Drugs and guns?
No,
we talked
not a lot of
before.
gun talk. I guess before. Yeah, we recorded that.
No, we didn't record that.
The debate of the ultimate caliber.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We better get going.
Oh,
got-
yeah. All right. We got to go to jiu-jitsu. Enjoy us talking about drugs. Oh, man. Oh, Jordan, you brought notes.
I started thinking.
Or is this a picture?
No, I drew a picture of the notes that I wanted to think.
Perfect.
Bunch of people doing drugs in Marysville.
Yeah, I was like,
you drew
this
a
is
picture.
problem. Yeah.
We're going.
And
Here we're going. Jordan,
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
what's on that piece of paper?
the piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of
What
misspelled
it-
garbage.
Is that information we don't know about?
No, it's
What
not
do you-
information.
what'd you
I was
write?
just
What'd
trying
you
to.
highlight?
Are these
I was-
documents you've come into possession of?
I like, yeah. They're laminated.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So when Mike suggested the war on drugs as a topic, and
I
then-
like drugs.
Yeah, well, I started thinking about like
Which team do you guys want to be on?
Well, there's the thought process of like I kind of have this fuck them, let addicts be addicts, and why would I give a fuck? But then the reality is like you can't cure addiction with like anger, right?
No.
Like
Nor gayness and force it away.
yeah.
Like, yeah, there's
people
certain
try.
yeah,
People
that's
try.
what I mean. Like pray the gay away.
Yeah.
Yeah, they try and beat the gay out of you. They try and beat the drug out of you.
Now, I don't know why you just directed that at me so quickly.
It's that face. There's no hair on it.
Yeah, dude, I shaved my beard.
You got a
now he
bald
thinks he
chin
can
for
talk shit like
podcasting?
this.
Dude, this is podcasting porn with that chin all bare.
Yeah, dude.
Don't do that.
I'm gonna scratch the mic.
Don't do that.
You're having, yeah.
But you can't force it.
Well, you can't force it. It's a compassion thing. That's like
It's recognizing you're having someone like a crack.
well,
like
the reason somebody turns to substances typically, right? Like and gets addicted. Because there's also like a question I have is like, why can one person do a drug and not be addicted, and another person does it and they instantly are hooked? And
there's
is that a
addictive
chemical
behaviors.
Is that a chemical thing, or is that like
Social, chemical.
I think
all
it's a lot of
nurtured thing.
upraising too. It's like who you are as a person, and sometimes people find something and they just cling so hard to it because they're missing something in their life.
So that's what I'm.
So there's all kinds of some people it's probably chemical. There's all kinds of reasons that I think people look at pharmaceuticals, people that had injuries and doctors were paid a lot of money to prescribe opiates. You got a generation of people addicted to heroin, and there's places like China and Hong Kong, and the British brought in a bunch of drugs into the port cities, and that's where the idea of like opium dens of the Chinese man, because the British flooded China with heroin, you know, and that's created animosity.
That's where they learned the tactic.
Yeah.
Which,
but I mean,
but that came to America, and then America was pushing back on China.
but I think they used it in ways to get like the society or that area a little bit more broken so they could occupy and use it more.
Yeah.
And I think drugs have been used throughout. I think drug culture has shifted over many different generations. I do kind of subscribe to the idea that alcohol was like fermentation's always kind of been around, but before fermentation, I think drug culture was more things found in the forest, more like
Psychedelics.
natural shrooms,
Yeah.
for like things that kind of
Less refined.
yeah, it's just a different culture. And then alcohol took effect. Look at Greek society and Roman and group, even they say we found beer in the pyramids or like, you know, Egyptians. And
fermented
it's
wheat.
like, yeah, the culture shifts and
That was
it's
wheat
still
that
people,
got left there and was wet. They were like, oh, it's beer. And it's like, you know shit.
but it's still cultures and people using things for either social events or for unwinding. And I think that like that had to shift how people interacted from going from maybe a more psychedelic drug to going to alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol is much more
So
of a
much more
different-
fun to talk to
you know?
Steve after I've had
So
three beers.
Yeah.
before we go
But-
down that whole rabbit hole, though,
Yeah.
I want to talk about addiction and
Oh,
like
shit.
what that whole thing is.
Look in the mirror.
Well, but that's where like all the
But that's what they say.
that's
right?
where the anger comes
Look in
from,
the mirror
from people.
first. Yeah.
Like that's where like yeah, it's that's where the anger comes from. But like for me anyway, because I think that is being used to keep I think the government is using the anger and allowing fucking drug addicts to go steal for the rest of the people to be pissed off at the drug addicts that are stealing, so nobody's willing to help those motherfuckers.
Dude, no one's helping these
Wait,
people right now.
you're saying it's a created problem.
I think they're perpetuating the issue.
but
I think it
it's-
can be solved, but they're perpetuating it because somebody's getting paid a lot of fucking
there's-
money.
yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
I'm like at the end of the day, I think that's what's going on. So I think that they're allowing these fucking drug addicts and all this to have this stigma based on them. And not to say that we're not making the right choices, like federally and like local laws are allowing these people to like, we're going to up the fucking,
That's where the anger should be.
but that's what I'm
yeah,
saying. But
yeah.
that's where the anger
Should
needs to be
be,
forced,
man.
but it's not.
Wait, finish that thought. We're upping what?
We're upping like the ability for theft.
I
We're
gotcha.
allowing.
You're making it more.
We're making it easier for these people.
more
to,
tolerated.
More
We're
tolerated by the
increasing
law.
our tolerance for their lifestyles.
But it's not our tolerance. It's
It's being forced on us.
it's being forced on us. It's still our tax dollars, and everybody's still pissed off about it. So that makes it that much harder for like me to want to go help one of these motherfuckers because I'm like, he's taking from me, and you're allowing it as the government's allowing it. So it's making the anger, and it's more anger and less compassion. When these people need to be helped with compassion,
That
and not,
person is really not taking from you. The government is taking from you in their name, and it is not funneling down because there's a whole lot of
I
people who are
understand that.
incentivized not to fix the problem.
Yeah, but that's where the problem lies,
Yes.
right? And that is where I think things are being perpetuated through like the government, and I think they're using this as one little other little area that they can steal from us, and they're not allowing treatment of these people because I believe that you can rehabilitate and treat these drug addicts, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm so pissed off about it. I'm ready to feed them to the whales, right? And the government is partial to blame.
100%.
So
Maybe if we fed Bob Ferguson to the whales,
I think
and
they
then fed
load
the
'em
drug
all up.
addicts Ibogaine, we could
Well,
fix the whole situation.
But, so I put the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's fulfillment, right? And there was a guy named Bruce Alexander in Vancouver, and he did this rat experiment where like to find they'd use rats and they'd basically take water. They'd have 2 water bottles, and it was one would be full of drugs and the other would just be water. And within like 2 weeks.
One of those rats is way more fun to hang out with.
Oh, yeah.
Where'd you get those glow sticks?
Yeah, holy shit. It was super pumped for like 2 weeks. But like with that experiment, they would go, oh, people just get addicted to drugs. These rats are choosing drugs over, but it's like,
Rat
no
Park?
shit.
Are you talking Rat Park?
Rat
Yeah.
Park. So then Rat Park, this guy goes, oh, the problem is we're just giving these rats just two options. Drink this water, drink that water. You're still in a boring ass cage.
Coke or no Coke.
But then they created like a rat utopia where they can go and like hang out with other rats. They can have sex with other rats. They can eat all kinds of cheeses, all the stuff.
Man.
And they left.
I'm in, bro.
Yeah. If I were a rat, that's where I want to be.
Tons of space was the big factor.
Tons of space. And then they kept those 2 water bottles. Yeah. And they found that the rats, like by and large, like rejected the water. The cocaine water.
Interesting.
Which, bunch of losers. But
mix it up.
Yeah. I mean, but that was the thing is like they didn't choose the only other option.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, that the fulfillment is a big part of.
It's almost like we're all trapped in a rat maze looking for some way to dull the experience.
Kinda. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you're looking for some sort of if you don't feel fulfilled, and I think there's a lot of reasons, and family and friends and all that a sense of belonging, the hierarchy of needs, right? It's in there, and if you're not hitting those fulfillments, then you're going to turn to easy sources of it, and that's drinking and drugs and
get a dopamine hit.
Yeah, and so we are lucky enough to have like a gym where we get to do drugs together.
And feel fulfilled. Yeah. It's the best ever. It's truly the best combination.
No, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's just you find your group, and you can find a sense of belonging, and you pull each other out or
but
in.
Even through that, I feel like every person has always battled this. Like, maybe you're on a great path, but still, even while you're on that great path, like the mundaneness of life, the boringness of life sometimes. I think that's what people like. They just want something better to be doing at this time, whether it's like, I'm going to go shopping and get a rush from this, or I'm going to go steal these clothes I was supposed to be shopping for, or I'm going to go smoke some crack behind Nordstrom's and then go shopping. But like, still, it's just the mundaneness, the banality, the day in, the day out. I think that's why you see like opium, like, don't get me wrong, I think there's a huge effect of pharmaceutical companies prescribing it, but it's a very good drug because it's like you kind of go on autopilot. Heroin addicts, they can kind of go on autopilot, whereas you get a fentanyl guy, he's leaning over, no good. You get a super speed guy and he's fucking dancing.
Yeah, but what?
No good. You want that laid back opium addict.
Do you think that what do you mean?
Hang on, are we talking about which kind of addicts we want? Are we talking about house pets here, or what is this?
Yeah, well, I think like society though, when you want, but society wants what they have. Like, and I think I think the government is making this a thing to where they are creating less compassion for these people, and they're taking money to make that a thing. They spent $20 billion in California in 3 years. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we lost the data. You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they can't
Who's got the dongle?
They can't point to
who the fuck's got
any one person. Like, that's fucking nuts. Yeah. So the fact that it's like, hey, there's this problem. Everybody sees this problem. This is a problem. We're trying to deal with the homeless epidemic. And what the fuck are we doing about it?
So
everybody knows they're doing drugs.
Yes.
You're not getting homeless because you're a fucking rad dude. You know what I mean? Like that's the other thing.
Bike,
like,
where do you live? Under a bridge?
Bro, I think there's people that do believe that they are on the street because of failed policy that has forced them out of their apartments.
That's
because
because
they've been reading the Seattle Times. No. It's like 99% drug addicts.
Well, yeah, 100%.
You don't end up in tent city.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Hang on.
I'm saying I think they're being forced out of, like, they're not being helped. They're being like put on display.
Yes. Yeah. They're being allowed to basically waste and squalor.
Yeah, because I think that the government
because
wants
there are
us
people
to
who
see
make
it.
a lot of money out of it.
They want us to see
Yes.
it, and they
Yes.
want us to be pissed off about it.
So
Because if we have, this goes to DARE, right? Everybody ended up taking DARE, and they think like, you do one hit of this, and you're addicted for
gay.
life. You're gay, and you're gonna like chop up your family with an axe. Like you're gonna do some wild shit.
Jokes on them. I was gay before I started smoking weed.
Yeah, told them, got them. Yeah.
Come at me.
Hey,
with that
quick
bullshit.
pee break? No. Oh my God, this is breaking news. Pee break.
Oh yeah, we got some stuff to talk about.
Hang on. No. You said it's making you mad at them. And it's like, yes,
That
anger.
is-
No. Anger should be something that is felt. You should be fucking angry. But it's like you're getting angry at them because the anger is being deviated towards them. There's an allowance of this just to happen.
Yes.
Right? When you create a situation where you have these crazy drug encampments of homeless people that are riddled with addiction and need help, the point of having a government is to pick those people up and sort this out, to have jurisdiction. When crime's being committed, cops go there. When there's a fire, the fire department goes there, right? So when you're not picking up these pieces, the government is completely complicit in it happening and not giving rehabilitation, right? So all this anger, you should be angry, but it gets placed on the people. It should be constantly into, why is my group not helping? You can probably go to Seattle and start ruckus in a bar, and they will charge you with intoxication, right? Doesn't happen when you have these homeless in camps. The laws, everything has shifted. And when you can blatantly see it over and over, it's just a collapse of your belief in the moral structure, your belief in what true crime and helping people are. Maybe that's why you saw so much of a red wave in the world, because they're like, or America, because they see all these cities that are stricken with it. We're the only city that set a prime example. And this is a flying of a flag, I think. This is like two different cultures. Like, I love this stuff because in like 2006, this stuff kind of started, and I was a young guy right out of high school, and I'm like, oh, America's kind of shifting. But it's like these people with these crazy ideas that I was going to college, my buddies were going to college, but I would see like the different kind of thought processes. And like you kind of, as Twitter and the internet happened and podcasts more, and you could listen to the top of the top, you're filtering the thickest of cream. This culture war started, man. And it was fun to see it, but then it was like, what's going to happen when these people that believe this start getting into power? What happens when someone that's my age is going to be in their 40s like they are? How is this going to affect culture? And right now, that is fucking happening. Yeah. And it's been weird to have it thumbprinted on the internet or through mass media or cultural zeitgeist and an idea. But what it is just certain sectors of thought, your government, people that have gotten into it, and they're, I don't know if money influences it, and it's like a corrupt government overscheme to make weak politicians. I don't know if it's money itself makes people weak and susceptible, but drugs carry over into this. And it's like you're saying, we should be mad, but it's like, it's because rules are allowed. I don't know how other to say it than rules are allowed and rules aren't allowed. Now, if I thought libertarian, it's like, okay, make everything completely legal, you know? And so nothing matters. But if something's introduced and it corrupts, or not corrupts, but it affects, like libertarian, do whatever you want. And if it doesn't affect anyone else, do it. But if you have something that's killing people, or really, if it's our tribe and it's killing people in our tribe, maybe we banish it. There is a point for authoritarianism in our government to look out for citizens in certain ways.
If that applies to narcotics, do you think that applies to food?
Well, I think that is
because it's a much slower death than with opiates.
Yeah.
But a lot of our food is the same. It's just as poisonous.
Poison, yeah.
It's weak food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is being clear with what's there is important.
Yeah.
I think. And when it comes to food, I'm that's authoritarian kind of a spot where it's like, guess what? Like when you get a can of corn, you expect it to be corn, not
Corn
a bunch
and
of other
sulfates
fucking
and
chemicals and
nitrodextrose,
bullshit that
yeah.
goes into it. So, I mean, I think because we allow other countries to get into our growing, right? Like
I don't
sent
think
you,
it's that. It's we are the country that allows all this shit to be sold as safe for human consumption.
yeah, but
But it's not considered
it's,
a drug because it's food safe.
But I mean,
where so many
we've
of these
got-
things in your foods are drugs or chemical
agriculture-
compounds that were invented.
agriculture has to produce, and we're not producing food just for the U.S. And that's the fucking problem, because like there was that thing I sent you guys about the 1,000 pen or 10,000 pen or whatever, and it's like these pig pens that basically they created a way to grow pork inside in these big ass enclosures that they got the price from 60 cents a pound down to 6 cents a pound or 2 cents a pound, I think it was.
Some mass industrial
Stuff. And then that farm that invented that sold, and they sold to China. And now all the other farms around cannot keep up production to that level and make money, because they're like, oh, you're selling shit for 2 cents? Like, we sell it for 60 cents. It's like, well, you're going out of business. So pretty soon they took over all this different shit. And that's why China owns a fuck ton of pork in the U.S.
Yeah.
And they're changing all of like the landscape of farming, and we're trying to feed the world when we're not feeding the U.S. And when we're going that big, there's infections, there's these things, there's that thing. And then now the AD or
I hope that with RFK coming in as the head of,
it was RFK that I was talking about that in a post.
I think we may actually,
unreal.
There's a good chance something will get done.
I hope.
Yeah.
I really do. I think there's a lot of crazy shit that they're talking about in this new administration that's coming in that might be
in a short
real.
way. Like, if everybody wants to take matters into your own hands, is start buying a half a cow and a half a pig from a local farmer.
Yeah.
Like, everybody who's bitching about it, it's more expensive.
Meet
so
the
put
man,
your
shake his
fucking
hand.
exactly put your money where your mouth is. Otherwise, go get your cheaper grocery store meat.
Yeah.
And shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it is a cool thing that we do have that ability, and it does suck that a lot of people don't, because it's so fucking expensive.
Yeah.
And you go, because it's not only the investment of, oh, I'm going to go buy a half a cow. Now it's, I got to buy half a cow or half a pig or a quarter cow or a quarter pig or chickens or whatever. But now I have to have a freezer to put it in.
Yeah.
Like, more than just what my half freezer can hold at home. And now I got so there's investment in it.
Yeah. If
And
you live in an
not
apartment,
easy.
it's not happening.
Well, it could. If you want it to
That's true.
happen, it can happen.
Move
There's
the couch out, put the chest freezer in.
I mean, I think there's apartments are big enough for a 4 square foot freezer, like, all day long. It's decide what you want out of life.
Yeah.
And if that's something you're going to put forth the effort into, it's smaller than a fucking desk.
But I really do hope with RFK coming in the new administration, this is something we see reversed, where I would like to see the factory farming operations become less advantageous, I guess, because if more people understand, and this is really the benefit of what he brings to the table, is education on the issues. Mm-hmm. So as people start to understand, hey, this shit is not good for you and you're slowly killing yourself, I hope that people have the level of responsibility to make better decisions for themselves. Yeah. And if you have all the information and you still choose to buy the shitty food, well, then you know what? Nobody's going to feel sorry for you.
The problem is also that we allow people to identify with their disease or their issue, and they find solace in, like, I am this.
I can't because I have a thyroid issue.
Yeah, I'm somebody with
I've not been able to live my life.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
So you get that, and it's like, so those people are like not willing to make a change because clinched onto
But,
identity.
so those people have also kind of given up on their life, and I'm okay with letting them sort of slide on out. And you know what I mean? I just don't think I should have to carry the bill for them and keep them alive for the next 40 years.
Looping us right back, weaving us right back in with the drug addiction. It's the same thing. Part of the thought that I've always had is let these people fucking die off.
Yeah, it would be more humane.
But
if your dog was living that way, you would have it put down.
Yeah, 100%. If it shit smelled like that, I would.
But your government's not doing its job.
My dog was sucking dick.
That is
to get hits
its
of
job.
The
methamphetamines.
government isn't doing its job because it's doing its own. It's padding its own pockets.
Yeah.
The government is making money off of the fucking problem. That's why California spends $20 billion in 3 years and has nothing to show for it.
It's the homeless industrial complex.
But once again, it's like your government has its own agenda in certain ways. Like I said, you say you get drunk in Seattle and you cause ruckus, they'll charge you a drunk in public. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, they're taking your money for being an addict in a way. But then it's like, look at the mayor, was it de Blasio of New York, that put a tax on soda fountains. Mm-hmm. And it's like, because of your addiction, we're taking your money. Mm-hmm. It's like drugs are classified as anything that has an effect or a side effect. And that is everything. Yeah. I mean, they're doing it down to sugar.
Drink, I think, tea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There you go.
Yeah. Well, that's ideology. Caffeine isn't allowed. Coffee and
But that's what I mean. Because coffee's a drug. Don't get it twisted. Coffee is a fucking drug.
So it's weird to see what people throughout time have said, this is what we're charging. Like tobacco's always been taxed because people want it. It's a drug. Indians of North Americas, of the Americas, tobacco was a plant that grew, and people love it. People still love cigarettes, you know? And I think drugs are just, it's weird when they allow certain drugs and they don't allow other drugs. And it's usually due towards like performance or benefit. Like cigarettes, nicotine, and caffeine put us on the moon, allegedly, right?
The thing is, though, when you have a drug like weed, it's a Schedule I narcotic. Cocaine's a Schedule II. The fact of the matter is like the government won't allow research into these things. Like
psilocybin mushrooms are considered Schedule 1.
Yeah.
So that you can't do medical research.
Yeah. And that right there is a huge fucking issue. Yeah. Right? There's a bunch of,
even though the states have spoken, that's where the libertarianism, and it's like the abortion thing, the states can speak, and drugs were, it seems ridiculous where like meth has research properties. Go make Adderall or Ritalin or whatever your fucking derivative is off of that. But weed is like, there's no intent for it. Mushrooms, there's no intent for it. There's not even research properties. But the states collectively said, no, we think this should happen. And so many of the states have turned it that weed is up for being turned over.
Oh, I thought you meant psilocybin.
Psilocybin ain't there yet, but weed has been pushed harder. That's why you had pot shops, not mushroom shops.
The reason for that is because marijuana is recreational, where mushrooms aren't like hey, let's have fun and get high this afternoon.
Some people I know do.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's microdosing, maybe.
It's
mushrooms are like, we're all locked in for the night, and I've got Tortino pizza rolls for when we come down.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to move the volume of mushrooms that you do of marijuana. And that's why they allow marijuana, is for the tax revenue.
Yeah, and taxes.
Yeah, without question. Yeah. But I think that when that all came out, it was the same group of motherfuckers that were like, we're going to get rid of alcohol. Oh, prohibition's over. Now we got to find something else to go after. And then that never went away.
Alcohol was a weird one, which was especially, I thought prohibition was led by church effort. And I don't know if there was money involved through that, or campaigning, or like, loyalty to papers back in the day. But prohibition was like, what, the 20s?
Yeah, the roaring 20s.
20, yeah.
Or I guess into the 30s. The roaring 20s led to prohibition
over
in the 30s.
It was over in 30. It didn't last long.
It happened in
They,
27.
they're like, we're taking away your booze. I remember it was like
27.
If your lips touch alcohol, they won't touch mine.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that in school. Like when we
That's
were into that
that's
era.
got to be one of the coolest times, like
What?
flapper dancers and all
yeah.
that shit. Like,
going to a
speakeasy.
The
Are you
mobsters,
kidding me?
Tommy guns. Yeah,
Like, how fun would that be, dude? That's some of my favorite movies are based in that time. Some Boardwalk Empire stuff.
It was more like maybe people hooked up more back in the day. But
1920 to 1933.
Yeah.
So
1920.
yeah,
That's
it was the
13
Roaring
years.
20s because it was the bootlegging that led to
but
the rise of all the
Prohibition
gangsters.
was 13 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, you believe that shit?
Yeah, could you imagine turn 21 and then they're like,
Sorry.
Prohibition is now in effect. You're like, fuck.
Son of a bitch.
I've been waiting.
Just wanted a sixer. Yeah. But that probably made it even more. If you're a degenerate, like maybe that's why mobsters collected, because they're like, all right, all this
Here's
booze is
opportunity.
illegal, see?
Yeah,
and
you
so
create
you
a
would
market.
meet up in a nightclub with other fucking lowlifes that were like, I want booze and let's meet up. Yeah. Maybe you
I think
rose
anybody
crime.
smart in business recognized that a whole bunch of competition just went out of business. And if you're willing to bend the laws a little bit, you can be the one game in town.
Well, isn't that part of why they lifted
A lot of motherfuckers
prohibition?
went blind. That's all I know.
Forest whiskey?
Yeah. Bunch of moonshiners out there just killing people right and left with their...
Jordan making paint thinner. Here you go.
Yeah, here you go. Drink that.
$20 a pint. But that's a weird thing to think that like prohibition happened and it took 13 years for people to be like, I want alcohol back, or just for the rules to change. But in that same time, you also had organized crime drive hardcore. When you make something illegal, there's always going to be a market around it. And when it's like illegal in the terms of force of guns now and action, that's what made mobsters rise back in that day. If you carry that same mentality over and you think of things being illegal like cocaine and stuff like that, look at how much money the cartel makes off of cocaine and shit like that. And because the whole world's like, it's illegal, we said it earlier, Pablo
It
Escobar
consolidates their business for them.
crushed the American dollar, which is why the war on drugs from the 70s and 80s happened, because of how much economic money they're taking over. And when you make something
the only way we
illegal-
have to tariff the fucking drugs is to make them illegal.
Yeah, but then look at prohibition. So you made something illegal. You had a rise in crime. The only way to stop this rise in crime is now
That's what I'm
legalize
saying.
it.
The only way
Legalize
to
it.
take
Yeah.
away their money, because that's why they're doing it.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden it's way less lucrative, why the fuck are we doing this? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can get it here, and you think people are buying when. This is a stupid question, and I'm not even going to ask it. But I think that people now are not buying drugs from their fucking. I don't know the last time I met a guy who was selling weed. That was just like, oh, here you go, on the street corner, and that was. I remember being 14 years old, and like that was the only way. You got to find a shady dude.
I think you had to have a pager number.
You know what I
call
mean?
a guy, then
Yeah,
he calls you
it's like,
back on
oh,
the
this guy-
payphone.
A grown
It's
man on
always
a BMX with a backpack.
It's
You're
always
like,
a weird thing. This guy right
there.
here. Yeah.
You got cornrows, even better.
Yeah, this guy.
And you're white.
Yeah.
I'm getting drugs.
You looking for the dro? What?
Please have a gold tooth. Please have a gold tooth.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's where that criminal element comes into play. But like when now it's legal in Washington or decriminalized, I don't really
Marijuana?
Yeah, right.
It's definitely legal. You can buy it in the store.
But it's not federally.
See, but that's where you're
not.
having states interpret it. But that's a good thing. So it's like, okay, but you can still get in trouble for having weed in your car. But when you're having tent cities, this is good because it's showing you what the government says is good and isn't good. And you're seeing an allocation of drugs. Alcohol still being sold, not prohibition. Good. Marijuana, and maybe I think our deaths on the road have probably gotten a little better. well, not since 2020, but once it got legalized going into 2020, I thought our deaths were declining. There was all kinds of like studies would always come out when weed first got legal. Driving deaths are different from alcohol or impaired.
Cooked studies that the pro marijuana lobby put out. To
God, I hope so. Yeah. You know, but yeah, I think it's weird to see what they say they'll allow and they won't allow. But the thing that's causing the most damage, they don't allow because there's no source of revenue. It's a drug just like any patented thing, but no one has the patent for fentanyl. You can't have that as a
fentanyl patent?
Yeah. Oh, what you can have is you can derive a molecule off of it and have the same effects, but patently, this is synthetically what we make. That is making drugs. Drugs, alcohol, sugar, carbs, methamphetamines, all they are is compounds.
Weed being illegal.
Yeah.
Because there's no patent for weed.
Yeah, because it's illegal.
But
you can make synthetic weed.
It's illegal because there's no patent, because
nobody can monetize it.
Yeah, it's hard, because it's an illegal thing. But you can make synthetic weed. You make weed and you pull a carbon off of it, and it's a little bit different.
I believe they called that spice. And
it
was not a good thing.
But there's Delta 8 and 9 or whatever those things are. There's tons of synthetic weeds. Bath salts are methamphetamines. They just take the chemical composition, they pull a carbon off it or add something to it, and structurally it's changed. Right? So they can sell this in a gas station, which is pretty much meth. Remember the guy that ate the dude's face off in Florida? That was meth. But owning a patent on a chemical compound that's not yet illegal, that's just a hair off. It's like, do whatever.
Yeah.
Drugs are everywhere. Oh, yeah. Everything is a drug.
Yeah. And that's anything you put in your body, really, except, I don't know, things that build your body.
Even water is a drug, but it's a drug that you need. It's a necessity.
It's a compound. It's not necessarily a drug.
But what if you have, like, depression because you're not eating something enough? Say you're a hunter-gatherer.
I don't think you can call beef a drug.
Yeah, but you get maybe more aminos and you get chemical compounds that help your body. And it's like beef is kind of a drug. The more I eat, the better I feel. The more performance I do, I help my village. I can build better. I can hunt better. If I was just eating pine cones in the woods with you guys.
Bigger, faster, stronger, dude.
Yeah. But everything you do is a drug. Your body requires other drugs to work.
We're all just compounds.
Other compounds. Not drugs.
Drugs, compounds.
It's a drug. It's the same thing. It's interchangeable.
Yeah. Well,
but certain drugs will fuck you. Snake venom's a form of a drug. It's a compound. It's a drug. And that drug, the anti-venom, is a drug. Right? Okay, so but what the fuck is it? It's part of the venom.
How do we as a society decide which ones of these drugs need to be kept with a watchful eye, right?
Yeah, good question.
What's the?
I think
because
research, study, understanding.
But the fact that they don't allow it, they don't allow. There is, I can't remember what that guy's name, but there's a guy serving 45 years for $20. Or not, he didn't. I don't even think he had $20 worth of weed. Like
2 J's.
It was conspiracy of
distribution
of weed. So they two people, because it's conspiracy, it was two people agreed that this guy was a part of this chain of fucking drug trafficking. The cops go to his house, they arrest him, they look through his house, they can't find anything, they all this different stuff. And I think he was a drug addict, but he wasn't selling drugs. Maybe he was in the past, but not to the level that they were. Anyway, guy's doing 45 years in prison.
Dude.
The people who told on him, their sentences are up and they're out. So he's spending and it's just some random dude.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, but the government uses that all the time. Why do you think drugs of crack and not cocaine? Chemically, they're the same thing. It's the same. Crack comes from cocaine, but you just change it to make the same cheaper. Thing you make weed with. You have weed and then you make oils or some sort of hash. It's still marijuana, but the penalty is the same for both of them. When you add cocaine and crack, cocaine was used by affluent white people. Crack was,
Okay,
I
so
think,
now we're getting
disseminated.
into the actual war on drugs, which
Just
I think
a form of persecution of using
there was a
thing.
very definite program to get poor people out of the projects into prison cells for the sake of keeping the prison, like we talked about earlier.
Also funding wars.
Keeping federal funding.
Iran-Contra.
Yeah, and that was a great way to fund dirty projects that didn't have
Selling drugs
Well, it's like the
through
stop
the CIA.
and frisk.
Yeah.
Stop and frisk was a big one, right? For that whole war on drugs and
the whole war on drugs, I think, was a farce, where you had one half of the government running the drugs into the poor populations of the United States, then using the convictions of the poor populations of the United States to fill the prisons so that industrial complex could make its money.
So the government's trying to make money on all this shit constantly.
Yeah.
And that's like
it's a giant racket.
Yeah, and it's just constant. And when the government does it, it's lawful, and when people do it, it's illegal. And they call, and
the difference between what they enforce and what they don't, all out of the tent cities, is who can they take from? If you have a checking account with money in it, then they can write you a speeding ticket and take something from you. If you're already living in squalor on the side of the road, there's no point in wasting police resources on you, because police have become revenue generators, right? So it's law enforcement has to do with who has money and who can pay the fine.
You know, something I don't like about either candidate that recently ran and even the person that got elected is
Which office?
There's no homeless committee on either side.
Are you talking state or federal?
Federal. Okay. Fuck it. States
it
already
is,
failed.
It is a state issue.
That's
what they're going to say. States need to take care of this. Because
this should become a federal mandate.
Right.
This
South Carolina should not pay for Seattle's poor decision making.
Yeah, but you're fixing your weak cities. What that will do will create more commerce, more business.
Why do the people in Seattle, their poor decisions affect people in Raleigh?
No, I'm just saying on like a national level, like if this is a threat to our livelihood.
So you're talking about putting federal dollars into it. So people on the East Coast or wherever, BFE in the middle of the Mountain West, they're now going to pay for Seattle's poor choices. Shouldn't the citizens of Seattle who voted for this fucking city council, shouldn't they be the ones who have to foot the bill to clean up the mess that they voted for?
There just needs to be federal help. Like if we can give so much money to Ukraine,
federal trebuchets.
Like there
we go. Now we go.
Okay. Hang on.
A missile launcher.
Hang on. I got a better idea. There's an entire force of men and women who already know how to camp. If we could just get them into the back of the cargo aircrafts, we could drop them off on the front line, and you'd have issue them a few weapons and send them forward.
We're going World War II.
They're already outdoor experts.
Could you imagine a homeless dude coming out the torpedo tube of a sub? Just that, little trash bag, like keeping his tail,
keeping him straight.
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Oh my God.
The other thing I was looking into some of this stuff, and there's something called civil forfeiture or civil asset forfeiture.
Civil forfeiture of assets.
And basically where the cops can come, shake you down, take your shit from you, and because it's a civil...
Put it in an evidence lockup.
And liquidate it. I think we were talking about this on another podcast.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is so fucked and so scary, just under the suspicion of you having you got fucking...
Whatever crime. Insert crime here.
Yeah. McGruff, the fucking crime dog, smells weed in your car, and now your car is going to be impounded and sold at a police auction because, that kind of stuff gets... I think that happens to disenfranchised people a lot more. And by that, I mean black people in poor urban areas getting fucking shaken down.
It's been used throughout time. Like Jews, which everyone says run the weather and the banks right now in Hollywood.
Indeed.
Right? But Jews were the scum of New York. they weren't the culture they were today. That's why back in the day, like in the early teens and 20s, there were so many Jewish boxers because they were the bottom rung, right? And that's why a lot of good fighters, I do think, come from impoverished areas like Mexico and places that are tough, because it's an opportunity, but it's also a strong mentality of people that know how to fight. There's been a few
UFC champions from the Hamptons, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. 90210, John Jones. Yeah. But I think so there were like laws in effect, or like there were black people that then moved in. There were all kinds of groups throughout the United States history where certain, like I said, with cocaine and crack, white people use coke, black people use crack, and the laws were different. The punishments were different.
If they're so similar, why do they cost so much different? Where's the cost so different?
For the same reason you get pulled over and the guy.
How much crack have you bought?
If you got more money, it costs more money.
All I'm saying is,
I think coke's more.
All I'm saying,
coke's more expensive.
That's what I'm saying.
Because usually it's
way more.
I think cocaine was cut down with like
Similac and bleach spray.
Yeah, it was
baby formula and rat poison. Yeah. But
all I'm saying is, I don't see why it's so much more expensive. If it's the same thing.
Because it's diluted with other chemicals.
Yeah, but why would that make it more expensive?
Oh, I see.
No,
wouldn't you buy crack at like wholesale? That's what I'm trying to say.
Because that's cut with even more stuff.
So cocaine's more pure?
Usually. I mean, anything can be contaminated, but cocaine's supposed to be closer of just what you want is cocoa plant.
Crack cocaine is often cut with various substances to increase its volume and profitability for drug dealers. Methamphetamine or Adderall, opioids like fentanyl, bulking agents, sodium bicarbonate, baking soda.
Bulking agents. The guy's putting a bunch of Bisquick in there. You son of a bitch.
Call Aunt Jemima. We got a problem.
Tilt your head back.
But yeah.
I guess son of a bitch.
But I don't know. It's so it's like, why things have been just like the mayor in New York making sugar more of a tax. Why is this more expensive?
But that's everywhere.
Because someone's making, that's
Washington.
the free market. But government has stepped into what the free market is supposed to be.
It made soda more expensive, which isn't a huge deal. But at the same time, what did it change?
It
didn't change a fucking thing.
It is a huge deal.
Yeah, you're right. It's a huge deal in that somebody's getting a lot of money out of it, and it hasn't changed anything.
Yeah, every single tax is a big deal. It is us giving away freedom. And I do mean freedom, because your fucking dollar is, like we've always said, what's your dollar?
It's a token of your time and energy.
Exactly. So you're fucking taking every little bit of it, and then you're charging me for this poison I'm about to drink. Why? So you can make even more money on me because like you're going to make this much off me in my lifetime. So I'm going to fucking tax you. You're killing yourself faster. You're trying to get out of the game quicker. So I'm going to charge you more now because
I'm going to get my pound of flesh.
Yeah. Whether you fucking live a 10-year life or a fucking 100-year life, guess what? We're getting money off your ass. And that to me is absolutely fucked. Well, way you look at it.
It's called a human resource.
Yeah.
And that's what this system has. Or that's what the system has created us into.
Isn't that a sheep?
Same thing. It's a hybrid, dude.
And the cow goes by. Uh-oh.
Fuck you guys.
Oh my God. Let's take a pee break.
All right, pee break.
What positive note, Mike?
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Where'd we leave off? DARE, the war on drugs. Did you guys get the little DARE bears in school?
Well, let's focus on DARE, because I had this thought because I was in the shower. And you ever just have a random shower thought?
Yeah.
I don't think I want to know what your shower thoughts are, Tobin, but
they're not so random.
I was washing my hair and I thought, I just flashed back, and it's like, in high school, I felt like they did a little bit of like this.
Was that a really quick thought?
It was a long thought.
Okay.
It was a long thought.
Where
But like in
during washing your hair?
high school, hey dude, it was it's so thick and lush.
Sudsing and sudsing.
I was loofahing my head, you know. But I thought about like in high school, they did a lot more like, and I don't think they do this now, but scared straight. Like, remember you'd watch those shows and they'd take a delinquent to prison? I remember so many times like a dude would blow into a straw in a wheelchair, would like pull up on the stage and he's like, I drank and drove with my friends in high school.
There was a lot of assemblies.
Or there was like a crackhead and she's like, fucking, I was getting a train railed on me and it aborted my fetus, either from the train or how much crack I was smoking. And then they'd be like, lunch. And you'd all have to deal with it and process it.
Yeah, all these kids are crisscross applesauce in the assembly.
Yeah,
like,
you know?
God.
But then
What's a train?
So it's like they did this scared straight mentality, and I think of Dare
That's
because
90s,
I
early
was
90s, late 80s.
and I was a child of Dare, which was drug abuse resistance education. Still remember it.
Dare to keep kids off drugs.
Yeah, you and McGruff, you're gonna learn the techniques. You can
McGruff the crime dog. Was he the dare dog too?
There was a crossover.
Yeah.
I thought McGruff was like tough on bullying.
Yeah, I think it was.
I think
kinda
drugs
like
were in his wheelhouse as well.
Were they? All right.
He's like, hey.
it was
Let that kid do drugs with you. No bullying.
Yeah.
You gonna smoke weed? Timmy's doing it with you. No excluding.
I said, take your brother.
Oh, he's gonna take a bite out of crime.
Yeah, that's right. Bite out of crime.
Yeah.
But that whole program was like someone's you learned how drugs were offered, like peer pressure.
Yeah.
Bandwagon. Everyone's doing it, Jordan.
I remember
Why don't
fourth grade when
you?
they brought marijuana in so we could all smell what it smells like.
Do you see that South Park
God,
episode
man.
when they pass around the marijuana, the dairy guy comes in, and then they're like, kids, where'd the marijuana go? And it's like lost. It's like,
Oh my god!
but that was Dare, and they wanted to educate, and they gave you techniques. They gave you coping
80s.
mechanisms.
That was
that was like 1988.
80s and
Reagan's
90s.
wife was pushing
That was
that.
90s.
Nancy Reagan.
But that was still in the 90s.
Yeah.
But they taught, at least they taught you techniques. They're like, if someone offers you drugs, what do?
Say no.
Cold shoulder.
Just say no.
You could learn just to like walk
Say
away.
no.
Say no.
tell.
Say thank you.
Tell.
But it's weird to think because, like I said earlier, of those people that had thought indoctrination and now they're in power, I think about those same people now that are taxpayers or those people in power and those programs that you went through. And it's like you learned all about how bad drugs were. And to see cities just riddled with drug addicts and it allowing to happen, I feel that's a huge part of that red wave. No one, like I said, I'm upset. No one talked about it. It's like, yes, border security. I get that. Economy. I get that. But it's like, we have oceans of drug riddled addicts all through our streets that add to crime, that add towards tax money going away, businesses not setting up in these areas, destroyed families.
Let me, I think, and I'm just going to pull off a little second. The crime, I think, would be higher than we have it assessed at. But I think that they've changed, and this could be two different versions of this, right? It could be that the crime, they raised the price of theft or whatever to count as a crime in Seattle, right? So it's like not.
Oh, so you're talking like they're not arresting people.
They're
for
not
shoplifting.
arresting it, and they're not going to count it as a really.
If it's
a
less than
crime.
$1,000, they don't even bother booking and prosecuting.
So it's basically not a fucking crime, right?
That's got to
So
change.
that went up. Do you think that went up to make it look like the city has less crime than it actually has?
Probably.
And on top of that, back to what I was saying before, it also makes the taxpayers more intolerant of these fucking people and less willing to help them with kindness because they're so angry. Back to what I was saying. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, wait. Hang on. I got derailed there.
Yeah, I got derailed hard. Sorry about that, dude. That's on me. McGruff the crime dog?
Yeah. Why does it smell like drugs in here?
That's a good question.
McGruff. McGruff was here.
Yeah.
You didn't see him?
McGruff gave us
Yeah.
a practical exercise.
He's by the window.
Do you remember? I think another thing about all of that is that it put a huge
That would be a
stigma
great Saturday Night Live. McGruff smoking a fucking bong with
in the back, like right
Chris
before
Farley.
they walk in. All right, kids.
That was a weird time in culture. Like when PSAs. Remember anti-drug?
Oh, yeah. Remember like the more you know after G.I. Joe cartoons?
Oh yeah, the more you know.
The more you know.
Yeah. If you fall into a body of water, kick your legs like a scissor and rotate your arms. The more you know, Joe.
G.I. Joe.
A bunch of kids are gonna drown.
But there was going to be a lot more quicksand. I'll tell you that.
I remember the first one as a kid. There was a commercial on TV and it would come on and it was this giant cast iron skillet. And they go,
this is your brain.
This is your brain. Yeah. And they throw that egg in there and they go, this is your brain on drugs.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I have many.
Yeah. But it was like, it was taught to you early. And as a kid growing up, I grew up in Bellevue in like a decent little area, Newport Hills. And this is like maybe 86. But we had these like, my dad got up really early for work at like, I don't know, 3:30 in the morning. And I was a little kid. I was like 2.5, maybe 3. And I remember this, but he got up for work and I got up too. I'm a little kid. My mom and everyone's going and it's still dark out. And I'm running around and I go over by the front door and I hear these voices. I go, there's someone out there. And I go and I grab my mom and she runs over to the door and she starts hearing it too. And my dad freaks out and enters karate stance ready to defend. But I think someone called 911 and the cops came. And it was 2 girls that were like they partied and they were date raped and like they were slipped, I don't know, a Mickey is what it was called back in the day. I don't know what they were officially on, but they got like drugged and dumped like in Bellevue at our door, or not door, but like in our yard, and they crawled. They found 2 of them. And I remember the mom came like days later and thanked us. And it's like, we didn't do anything. Well, I guess I was a hero at 3.
Yeah.
I wore that shield early, but
Everybody's got their cross.
Got a Superman jammies on. Out there.
yeah.
You're welcome, ladies.
But that was like in my head, I always that made me think about drugs and stuff like that. And I remember like I told my mom, like, we should give her the tape, like, because as a kid you had VHS tapes and one was like a McGruff, like, don't do drugs thing.
Yeah.
Thinking that would work. But it's like, dude, drugs are everywhere. And it's not only you, like, those drugs are illegal, I think, but people will slip them. And it's like, it's just what... Is it good that that thing is illegal, or does it make it more like, what if you want something to knock someone out, but what you give them kills them? What if all purity of drugs is more allowed? Does that stop nefariousness in drugs? I don't know. It's a weird thing where I start to think about authoritarianism and like when a government says something should be outlawed. If there's a drug out there that kills everyone, and it's like super addictive, and it's like, well, maybe this should be illegal for the benefit of everyone. I hate to impede on your freedom, but you doing this and having it makes it more accessible for other people to do it, and they die. So as like looking out for my townspeople, my tribe, this should be illegal.
Yeah, we're already way beyond the libertarian argument of as long as it only affects you, because the squalor and filth is everywhere. It's in the schools, it's on the streets, it's difficult to run a business in certain downtown areas, and everybody is living in fear of their kids brushing up against accidental fentanyl contact.
Yeah.
So that we're way beyond this problem only affects the people who choose to put it in their bodies. This is affecting everybody in the region.
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely.
But that's what I mean, like with alcohol. I mean, hey, fentanyl, go ahead and make it legal. But if you're constantly doing fentanyl and passed out in public,
but you can't
then
make it
you're
legal.
off. You're put in the system.
You can't make it
Fentanyl's
legal
not safe.
if residue on your skin
Can
is
kill
enough
somebody.
to cause an overdose.
Yeah.
You can't have...
That is true.
You know what I mean? Like if you get Cheeto dust on your skin from your neighbor,
Yeah,
you're not
I
going to go
wasn't thinking that.
into shock. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, what about meth? Do people brush with meth and die?
No, people step on needles.
So a little bit of meth can go.
But that's also, you know what?
But
if you can do it and you can keep your fucking job and you can maintain a home and stay within your home, do what you want inside your house. If that's what it is, have at it.
But
don't do fucking fentanyl and then be a renter. You know what I mean?
Dude, a real estate agent on fentanyl just in the middle of a showing.
But that's the thing.
Are we going to close this?
Just out. Yeah. Just yeah, a little fucking basket of Narcan on
for the handshake. Shit.
Yeah, it's just.
But that's what I mean.
That's not okay. We're that's a whole different fucking ball of wax.
But if you enforce those laws, okay, say even fentanyl's legal, but you're high on fentanyl on public, you're off the street, just like you're drunk on alcohol, off the street. In my opinion, if you make everything completely legal, but you still enforce, you can't be fucked up in public and doing these things, you eliminate tent cities.
Yeah.
You're leaning the laws. You should have these things enforced. Don't be fucking drunk as shit and driving. Don't be on heroin and driving. Don't be on methamphetamines and driving. Yeah, but it should still be enforced. When you create a loophole, everything should be held to the same standard.
You know how they say, like, when you're raising a kid, you need to keep your threats, right? Like, they tell you, like, if you make a threat with your kid, you need to keep it. You can't play Xbox. Guess what? Little fucker ain't playing Xbox. They need to do the same thing with enforcing these laws.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
because
it's enforcement. It's your government letting you down.
Yeah, they're allowing
They're
people
picking
to
and
get
choosing
away.
who
exactly.
they enforce
No
the law
cherry
against
picking.
and which laws they enforce.
No cherry
So
picking.
that it has lost its legitimacy a little bit because you don't really know which ones. The analogy of
we
a child
know
is a
which
great
ones.
one because the child doesn't understand which rules need to be followed because they can't decide which rules are actually enforced.
And that's where I say, like, you shouldn't be mad at the person. You should be mad at your local authorities and municipalities of not enforcing these laws that are carried on everything else, just like the taxing of sugar. Cool. Tax it a little bit, but enforce it only to this. You can't be drunk in public. Enforce it. Make it happen. But don't just pick and choose. Oh, this one, maybe no one's creating ruckus, but everyone's drinking soda pop. So let's just increase the tax on that. No, enforcement. Keep it to like everything ethically. Keep it together. Don't pick and choose or start to meander towards one. I think that's what our problem is. We've lost the conviction to enforce these certain rules or laws.
Well, depending on who the people are, right? And is it going to? Again, I honestly think much of this comes back down to lining pocket.
This drug is a color barrier. It doesn't matter if you're a white guy junkie, a black guy junkie, an Asian guy junkie, a Mexican junkie. What this is all about is just letting it's the roaming of the junkies. Like, it's seriously like it's free reign. For some reason, the power has not been given to the citizen. The power has been given to the junkie. This is different.
Because when you have nothing left to lose,
but
you're untouchable.
Yeah.
But
you're
true freedom.
True freedom.
But that
I want to go camping with that guy.
In Washington, they've allowed again, I always say this, but it is fear of intolerance is what fucking runs Washington.
Yeah.
And there's such a issue. I mean, look at squatters' rights.
I think that
squatters'
is also
rights
an engineered
is
issue.
Yeah, but 100%. But there's a bunch of people that have been brainwashed to think like if I'm not intolerant or if I'm intolerant, I am a Nazi. I am a horrible person. And it's like, no, you just have a fucking standard and you want it to be stuck with. Yeah. And you have a moral and ethical code in which you want life to be led. So you are saying, no, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between somebody going, I'm not okay with that, so I'm not going to partake in that, which is what I kind of line up with most of the time. And then there's other people who are, I'm not okay with that, so that shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
I got a problem with that most of the time.
Well, it's interesting what you say, too, about squatter rights. And it's like you look at what squatter rights allow and like how much they favor they piggyback kind of off of drug laws. Like squatters are druggies. It's not like some guy that's fucking Unabomber style mad at
renters'
the world.
rights
That's
in Washington are a little. The renter has more authority than the owner. Right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of,
but like squatters specifically. I mean, how many cities have been affected by this? Where like nice communities, and it's like someone goes into the fucking 5,000 square foot chateau, and they just there, and the cops
squatting.
are like, we can't do any.
The last construction project I did was a clinic that they shut it down during COVID for 2 years, and squatters moved in and just destroyed the building. Yeah.
Well, I got to shit in all those electrical conduits you guys put. It's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, why is this pulling so hard?
It's a frozen,
just a frozen turd.
Yeah, just
a constipated fucking fentanyl turd.
You boys get to pull those wires in the spring when the thaw happens. Start pulling wire.
Oh my god. We got to start feeding these guys plums.
Oh, gross. Dude. Well, this is a morbid thought. The poop of like a pure junkie.
Yeah.
Like because you have to think like we're all in tune with our body. You notice when you eat corn, maybe more vegetables, more meats. What are you eating when you're just a junkie besides? Because you're losing tons of weight. What's coming out?
I literally watched a man, like an expert urban outdoorsman, setting a trap line of fucking
cat traps.
No, they were rat traps. I saw them like those. What are those? The wood ones with the little. What are those called?
Little spring on it.
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called. But I watched this guy setting these traps, and I was like, that guy is.
He wants non-GMO.
Cook dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, he's getting what he just set up outside like
field fresh.
It was and it was in Chinatown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Was he working at a restaurant?
No, dude. That guy was a hobo. Yeah. That was
just making sure,
dude. I watched another bum start a fire on the backside of a building and use the building as a backstop for the fire.
Yeah.
It was like, what the fuck?
That's how you get a walk going.
Yeah. When you give zero fucks.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely
it's true
wild.
freedom. True freedom.
You know what would be a crazy show? Would be like Top Chef, but for like homeless people.
I would actually want to know: is it mostly fast food? Is it canned food? Is it fucking Lunchables that are being handed out by all the homeless industrial complex
I've
people?
seen a ton of people reaching into garbage cans.
Yeah.
I have pulling out
restaurants
whatever.
throw away a lot of shit.
No, I'm talking just on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Just dude, reach over, look down, pick up a cigarette and
half a hush puppy.
Something. Yeah, 100%. And it's kind of sad to see that because at that point it's like
Survival.
I know you're just and just real nonchalant about it. You know what I mean?
But that's the goal of the tent city, is to get to a point where you're not really
it's
Jordan's
the point
culinary hour is going downhill when you're totally addicted to something.
Yeah,
that's
but
what allows tent cities.
A tent city is, let's keep this here because we don't want to deal with the problem. Let's just get it over here so we're not looking at it.
The reality is the people who they've hired for these positions who are not incentivized to fix the problem also have no fucking clue how to fix any problem, let alone in their own. They can't fix an outlet in their own house. They can't fix a leaky faucet in their own house. They're sure as fuck not going to fix the massive problem in Puget Sound.
Other humans' fucking lives.
But that's the problem, is what drives the tent city. Seattle was famous for having Hooverville's tent cities back in the day because of the depression.
Those were drug addicts.
It was economic.
Those were people who were trying to make it with their families and didn't have the means.
That's what I mean. It was economic factors driving the tent city. If because the economy is so broken that people can only live in tents, I will let you stay in this area and try and build better. Yeah. But when you are drug addicts and that's what creates the tent city,
get the fuck out.
That's what we have the problem with.
But and that's what I'm trying to say. And that's a moral and ethical thing to be trying the best you can, truly, in struggling to keep your head above water. That's a different that's a pursuit of happiness, right? That's what that is. It's, hey, I'm down on my luck. I got no money. I got nowhere to stay. Here we go. No. Versus I'm doing all the drugs I can find because I've lost my pursuit for happiness, and I'm just willing to fucking get out of whatever I can.
As I say, most of those people are in so much pain at the end of the day, they are trying to slowly kill themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't mean physical pain. I mean emotional.
Yeah,
spiritual
100%.
pain. Yeah.
That's what it is. People that are happy aren't going and getting hammered and doing drugs all the time. There's no. Like,
they take breaks.
If you have
breaks.
all the I'm not saying you don't. Like recreational drug.
Oh, the needle fell out of my arm.
Recreational drugs is a little bit different than addiction.
Yeah, that's hard.
Right, and that's another thing that we were talking about in the beginning is like what's the difference and where does that come from? Why are some people able to do it? You think they have a better, more positive look on life, so they can do these drugs without being addicted?
I think it's multi-factored. Part of it is probably genetics. Like look at Indians and alcohol, Native American, North American. I mean, they just didn't have it in their culture. They were once, like I said earlier, more hallucinogen based off of alcohol. You see what happens to a drug culture when alcohol is brought over and it doesn't go well. They don't have enzymes. They're not used to it. Your body evolves and grows with alcohol.
So you're saying start young.
Yeah. Get that beer going.
Evolve.
But I think, these drugs.
Drugs are great in many forms, and there's a lot of positive shit I think that comes from drugs.
Yeah, there's good and bad.
I think some of the best times in life can be had because of them. Some great opportunities. Some
wild sex.
There you go. Yeah.
Key break.
On that note, guys, like and subscribe.
But when they're done with purpose,
with the purpose,
and not because I think that the purpose that they're intention, well intentioned, and this is what I do as I keep
and
my
not all,
life
hang on.
circulating.
So not all drugs are capable of that. So you're talking specifically about like plant medicine, which gets lumped in with drugs because the ATF and DEA consider them controlled substances. Mm-hmm. But you can't set an intention with crystal meth and then have an experience with nature or with God.
I haven't tried, but I imagine not.
Although before we say that for sure, maybe we should give it a shot. I don't know, Mike. What do you got?
Yeah, but I think it's what'll make people do them, like the alcohol and the Indian thing. That's one, but part of boredom though is also like
Rat City.
You overdo anything. Like I say, everything's a drug. It's like the same way you can fuck over and kill yourself and destroy your liver through alcohol. You can fuck over and destroy your body and your heart with cheeseburgers. The same thing, anything can be used.
That's a death I'll take.
But any of those will lead to like a compromised state. The drugs are everything we take in. Water is a form, food, chemicals. All of these are drugs.
Nobody's making it out of here alive, right? Everybody's going to die. We're all going over the fucking waterfall at the end of life. And
what drugs?
The problem is when people are willing to speed that up.
Yeah.
Because of pain.
Yeah.
And when that is your primary reason for using drugs or eating food that's fucking horrible for you, or that depression, that feeling, that anxiety, that is where we're talking these things are coming from.
But that's
that's what we need to work to fix are those things.
But I think
not the everything that comes from it. Right?
But I think that's what gives you the power is when you can look at everything like a drug. Well, if everything's a drug, well, now you know two things. One, dosage and time. And then what off of that, how does that affect my life? Does that make my life better? I like sugar. I like a cookie and cake. But if I eat it every night, that dosage and how long it lasts, it's not good for me. So now maybe I try and slow that dosage and that time and I do it once a week or every 2 weeks, and I do it with a nice dessert, my wife, well, that dosage and time of this drug is good. Okay, so maybe we're starting to learn when we think of this, we can calibrate our lives. You replace alcohol, you replace recreational drugs, you replace it with nourishing drugs like food, fats, carbs. I think it's a good way to look at it is you have to look at everything like a drug. And what drugs are, if it's good, it enhances your life. And the dosage and the time has to be used. But if something that's good can turn bad, yes, that's where addiction starts. Probably stems from something internal, the fucked up relationship with a parent, loss of something.
Trauma.
Yeah. But I think we have a bad approach with drugs. And I think we demonize drugs because monetary things are a huge factor, whether you can tax it like an alcohol or a sugar of prohibition, or whether it's something that collapses your dollar like the cocaine of the 70s and 80s.
It's a hell of a drug, though.
Oh, yeah. Drugs, it's weird. It's something I think about all the time, but we've never talked about it. I'm glad we got our first drug conversation.
Yeah, fucking A. Well, hey.
Let's go do some drugs.
I was just going to say, speaking of drugs, it's time to put on our gis and put some performance enhancements in the bong. So
do some arm drugs.
You know what we should do? I would like to do more smelling salts.
What the fuck?
No, do you ever do smelling salts?
Oh,
As
yeah,
like
yeah.
recreational?
Oh, dude.
Oh, smell
Are you kidding
good?
me?
I've seen the guys on the sidelines doing
My
that
favorite
shit.
thing at work used to be going to different body shops, raiding their medical cabinets, and grabbing smelling salts and doing them at work because it's just like, woo, let's put a sticker on.
We did smelling salts that were like in a it was like
jar?
a pill container.
Yeah.
And you take that and shake it up and just smell it. It was like, holy shit.
Dude, you used to see guys all the time at like 24-hour fitness, and they would be on the squat rack all wrapped up, and they'd bust one of those smelling salts, and
Yeah, it gets you going.
yeah.
That's fucking wild.
Oh, my God. All right. If you guys are enjoying this content, please leave us I don't know, maybe don't leave us a review after that.
Leave a review.
Leave us a
Like,
review
subscribe.
on Spotify or iTunes because
We appreciate the ones who do. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.